progressives in crisis. From The Great New Deal, a not-quite fictional preview of future history, written by Mark Tredisum, narrated by David DeBerg. Hannah De Victor, a senior research fellow at the Hooser Institute, a conservative libertarian public policy think tank, was at her home in Amarillo, Texas. Hannah was surprised when she received a message from someone using the handle Mr. Chipster. The message came with a PDF document attachment, which she opened and studied. It seemed credible and authentic, but she was anxious. Could it be a setup? If she tried to share it, would her home be invaded by heavily armed federal police dressed in black, or would the PSFC cancel her online access forever? She didn't want to endanger her friends or family with this document. It might be too toxic to handle. The attachment purported to be a draft of the minutes from a United Congress Executive Committee meeting just 3 days ago. The document header said draft and confidential, not for public. The document read, Minutes of the UC Executive Committee, in continuing session. The committee chair led the members in the recital of the committee mantra, Never let a crisis go to waste. The committee chair instructed the members, The subjects of this meeting are very sensitive. The president urgently requested that we hold this meeting in order to address the crisis that threatens the survival of this nation and its government. 1 week from today, the president will issue a declaration of a national existential crisis. It is her request and my expectation that she will simultaneously announce to the public that the United Congress has evaluated the situation, has passed legislation that will resolve the crisis, and that she has signed the legislation. The President and I have agreed that this legislation will be called the Great New Deal. You will be pleased to know that focus group studies and surveys indicate a high degree of support for the legislation bearing that name, even though no such legislation actually exists at this time. A few days ago, I contacted the chairs of the various committees of the United Congress. I gave each of them specific subjects to address. They are now going to make their reports to this executive committee. We need to be very careful not to worry the public. Our control over the news media and internet will help accomplish this, but everyone in the government must handle this with great discretion because our very lives and careers depend on this. We don't want people to worry that we are going to take something away from them or that we are going to increase the tax burden on them, even if that is a reality. Also, we need to find things that will distract the public from what we're doing and keep the public focused on those things. The committee chair phoned the sergeant-at-arms. Please instruct the chair of the Education Committee to join us. She read the minutes of the Education Committee report. First, I have some good news. We have been able to consolidate all the major corporations of big tech under one holding company. That holding company is under federal government control. We haven't selected a name for the holding company yet, so we are still using the old product brand names for social media, messaging, search engines, and online shopping. We think those brand names are comforting for the people who have grown to depend on them. Hannah shuddered at the consolidation of all the power under direct government control. The Education Committee report continued. A shift to universal online learning will provide greater equality of educational outcomes than in the past. No more need for federal grants or student loans. In fact, all tuition revenue will come to the federal government. All students will be enrolled in unified national learning programs. These will be 90% online. Private, charter, and religious schools will be prohibited. Degrees and certificates will be issued to students based on the social goals established by the United Congress. We can do all this with about 10% of the current staffing in our national education system. As a result, most education facilities can be sold or repurposed to other government needs. To top it off, the large endowment funds of the colleges and universities can be seized under the Wealth Equalization Act. We'll put our most loyal supporters in the remaining positions and express our sincere regret when the other positions are eliminated. Remember, we are doing it for the children and to ensure equality of outcomes." The committee chair said, "I agree with your conclusions. Provide our staff with the written details. As you exit, please instruct the chair of the Human Relations Committee to join us next." The Human Relations Committee and the U.S. Human Relations Department covered broad ground, including the former Departments of Labor, Commerce, and Justice, as well as HHS, HUD, and the VA. Since the start of this administration, we've seen a larger than expected and growing flow of immigrants from the South. We're temporarily unable to find food, housing, and medical care for them. Some immigrants and residents have reacted to this with protests and counter-protests. At the same time, we've seen an influx of poor-quality recreational drugs entering our country. These present a health hazard to our population and are sold through unregulated and untaxed channels. We have negotiated a solution to both of these difficulties for incorporation into the Great New Deal. Mexican drug cartels are willing to patrol the entire border between the U.S. and Mexico and will prevent anyone from approaching within 10 miles of the Mexican side of the border. The cartels will do this without any cost to the federal government. Plus, they have offered to extend this peacekeeping service into the state of California, which has been in some disarray. Further, they agreed to deliver their recreational drug products solely to federal personnel at the border. We will pay them a fair wholesale price, and then we will be able to inspect the product, confirming it meets our quality standards. After inspection, we will sell it to licensed recreational drugstores and casinos across the country, who will retail it to our residents in compliance with the new federal policies. This will create great savings in our Immigration and Recreational Drug Administration costs. We should receive substantial excise tax income and brokerage fees from the product sales in the United States, and we will ensure the public has a more reliable supply of high-quality recreational products, while we reap a fair margin on the sales to the licensed recreational drugstores and casinos, where many currently unemployed people will get new jobs. Lastly, the Human Relations Committee is still concerned about the number of people being born in this country. Population growth places unnecessary demands upon government resources and harms the environment. The committee believes that more emphasis should be given toward minimizing the number of babies born in this nation. We recommend that all family planning clinics be nationalized under the Great New Deal. The committee chair said, "Very good. These measures are a win for everyone. Tomorrow, provide our staff with the specifics for inclusion in the Great New Deal legislation. On your way out, please instruct the chair of the Science Committee to join us next." To Hannah, the minutes read like undercover surveillance of organized crime, not a leaked congressional meeting. Deals with narcotics cartels, profiting from peddling drugs, gambling, and abortion. She'd read Hooser Institute reports on the social damage wreaked by drugs and gambling. Obviously, these were not factored into the committee's cost-benefit computations. She was repulsed by the continuing push for more abortions, more methods, more clinics, more countries, more tax money, more death. Since the 1973 Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion, over 62 million babies have been killed in just the United States, the death equivalent of 10 Holocausts. Hannah returned to her reading of the minutes. The Science Committee chair, responsible for agriculture, transportation, interior, NASA, NOAA, and energy, presented this report. Temperatures have cooled and sunlight levels have diminished since the Kilauea eruption. This has reduced, at least temporarily, concern about global warming. But many regions are reporting prolonged severe winter weather and concerns about crop viability. Some scientists are again voicing the concerns raised 50 years ago about the potential for a new ice age. We were not expecting this, And the previous administration did not leave us an Ice Age contingency plan. Our national power grid was already a tattered web. Now, wind and solar power generation has crashed. We have clouds and snow blocking solar panels. Heavy ice has stopped wind turbines and threatens the transmission cables that bring the electricity from the power generation facilities to our cities and industries. The committee recommends we temporarily reverse the efforts to shift from natural gas, coal, and petroleum to green energy sources. We should stop subsidizing solar and wind power and end tax subsidies for electric vehicles. This shift will substantially increase tax revenues to the federal and state budgets, reduce our expenditures, and provide more energy to more people. All nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers should immediately be recalled to U.S. ports and be converted to provide electrical power to our cities. The Secretary of World Peace supports this plan. The UC member from Illinois asked, "Will any of these nuclear ships be stationed in Lake Michigan to provide electricity for Chicago?" The Science Committee chair answered, "I don't know. That sounds good, but I will need to circle back to you with that answer." The UC member from Maryland asked, "Would you consider this impending ice age to be an existential crisis for the planet?" The Science Committee chair answered, "Yes, if those scientists' theories are proved right. That is a fair description. And if future scientific models should suggest a resumption of global warming, we can then reverse all of these actions." The UC member from Maryland declared, "Well, so long as there is some existential climate crisis, and we are working to solve it, I'm in favor of your plan." The committee chair said, "Good work by the Science Committee. The risk of global cooling sounds like an excellent way to distract the masses from the real problems of the day. We need to emphasize this crisis immediately. The Science Committee must join with the Education Committee to produce PSAs and documentaries for broadcast on CCCP TV and distribution online. You know, images of freezing people clad in animal skins, rampaging polar bears and icebergs in Chesapeake Bay. Through selective funding and social pressure, we should be able to produce a consensus among scientists that global warming is just a symptom of global cooling, and vice versa. Be sure you deliver your written plan and financial computations to the Executive Committee staff tonight.